So yeah.
Is it?
Yep.
All right. Praise the Lord, everybody.
Praise the Lord.
It's Choose to Love Ministries. I'm your host, Dennis Jackson, Minister Jackson. And today we're going to talk about boxing and the political arena, politics. And first, I just want to say the fight last week, it didn't go the way I thought. I was convinced Deontay Wilder was going to win, and he didn't. He got knocked out. What do you think, Drew?
He got dog walk. Yeah.
Yeah, it was not as close as it could be. He didn't have any adjustments. I didn't think his corner helped him too much. I don't think them throwing in the towel was all that bad. After the second round, when his ear was bleeding, and Stephanie called it, she said his eardrum was probably busted. Although I haven't heard that where they said his eardrum was
Because
busted.
equilibrium was off.
He clearly
really bad.
he was wobbly. He was on
Legs
spaghetti
were gone.
legs for the rest of the fight. And if you've ever been knocked out, which I admit I've been knocked out twice playing football, you're not there for a while. It's a good while, you know. I played back in the days when they just held your helmet for a while, and then they finally gave it back to you. And even when that happened, I didn't know what was going on. I was just kind of standing out there. Fortunately, I didn't get hurt. So anyway, that was tough. I think he signed a clause to rematch, right? Yeah.
She could scoot you in because your face.
All right. All right. So I think he signed a rematch clause, but if I was him, I would take some training. Maybe you should call Lennox Lewis and have him go over some things he could do to defeat a bigger guy that wants to lean on him. Any comments, son? You're a boxing expert.
I'm about expert, but pretty much. I'm not too. It was hard to watch Wilder get beat down like that, but it didn't.
I was hoping for Wilder to do.
Yeah.
Fury was the taller guy, the bigger guy, the better boxer, and he came back correct. The game's really about adjustments. Wilder virtually made none. If anything, he regressed.
I don't know that he regressed. He just didn't make any adjustments.
I do appreciate that a little bit about Wilder, that he made.
Fury made the adjustment.
Fury. Yeah, I'm sorry.
He put on about 15 or 20 pounds.
Yes, that helped him.
He attacked straight into Deontay, so he stayed out of Deontay's knockout punching range.
He changed everything, which I think is kind
of
weird.
He changed trainers. Yeah.
He said, "Well, if I want a different outcome, then I have
got
to
do
change
something different." Right.
So.
Prompt him.
Yeah. So he did. It was very smart.
Yeah. Have to give it out to him.
Yes.
Congratulations.
And so I guess it's not about boxing. Everybody's kind of quiet on it. So okay. So we'll talk about the political arena. And Apostle Paul, one time he was in trouble, and he said, "You can't treat me this way because I am a Roman citizen." And so they kind of stop and say, "Oh wait, okay." So then they sent him to Rome because he knew his rights as a Roman citizen. And my wife Stephanie follows the politics. Actually, we both do.
Yeah, we're both political junkies.
She follows the politics. I mean, MSNBC, CNN, you name it.
I mostly watch MSNBC.
We're watching.
I don't really deviate too much.
So that's our sports for us as a couple is to watch politics.
Well, that affects our life, huh?
So lame.
That's not lame.
It don't matter more.
I tell you what, those political changes made changes in our everyday life. That's why I watch it.
Right.
Because if you're at all interested in your everyday life, you need to watch and see what's going on. In fact, I don't know why people think that God is not involved in politics, because he says, cast all your care upon him. There's no aspect in your life that, to me as a Christian, that I've learned, that there's no aspect that God isn't concerned about. He's concerned about everything about your life. Every part of your life is important to God because he's in everything. So in terms of, I think God is all in the politics. And when I think my Pentecostal upbringing, let me just start back a little bit. My mother was born and reared a Baptist, and then she married my father, and then she got the Holy Ghost, and she became Pentecostal. And so what it is that she has always had a strong sense of civil rights and learning about and becoming more of an active citizen and an active activist and helping the less fortunate. So my mother was really, she really taught me more about that. She was always involved in the missions. She was always involved in, well, she was a legal aid secretary, so she worked for a lawyer for a long time. So that was always her interest, and that interest often rubbed off on me in terms of always being civilly engaged. And I don't really like it that, so many of our Baptist brethren and Methodist brethren, work tirelessly to our AME brethren that also work tirelessly to make effective, positive change. And I think some of our, I can speak a little bit from my Pentecostal. I'm not speaking of all Pentecostal people, but some Pentecostal people just weren't engaged at all and didn't see any importance in that. But I think it's important. I think that it's, if you're going to reap the benefits of other people's
civil
labor,
rights,
civil rights, you should be interested. You should be actively engaged, at least in being a voter. And the more you vote, the harder it is for them to take you off the voting roll. So I am a strong believer, and my husband, this is something that Dennis is really great at. He reads the newspaper every Friday, for one thing, which also gets us, believe it or not, that's our information as well.
My dad was a barber, and he would get the Sunday paper and read it cover to cover. Mm-hmm. So I can't read the Sunday paper; it's too big for me. But Friday, I read the whole paper. Right.
What I wanted to say is that I think that in terms of politics, I do want to talk a little bit about the races that are not presidential. I don't want people just to only focus on the presidential race, because it doesn't matter who's president. If you can't get both houses to work with you to get things done, it won't matter anyway. I mean, it'll matter some. So certainly the president, how he or she thinks about, which we have never had a she, but how she thinks about, anything and everything, what their political stance is on how they think about people, how they think about inclusivity, how they think about diversity, whether they want diversity or not. Some are president doesn't really want any diversity in his cabinet or in his presidency at all. And so they're trying to make it, a lot like Denmark in a sense, to a one type of culture in a sense. So, but what we are a diverse nation, and we need all diversity involved in the civil engagement. And for that, all people from this diverse population needs to be engaged. They need to vote. They need to have a say-so in how their country is being governed.
I personally believe that it's not just race, but it's also class or money. Mm-hmm. And one of the problems we really have is that our current president, what he really does is he represents people with money. And so that's why he first got up about the Zika virus. It'll be all right. It's nothing. And it's going to go away. People are not even going to get sick. And it made my mind go back to Ronald Reagan. I remember when he wanted to cut the food budget. They had a program where if you didn't have enough money for lunch, there were a lot of kids that were going to school hungry. Some of the teachers were giving money out of their own pocket to feed the students. So they said, okay, we're going to give a free lunch program. So Reagan was like, we ain't giving these kids all that money for lunch. So he said, I tell you what, ketchup is a vegetable. Ketchup's made out of tomatoes, right? Ketchup is a vegetable. You think I'm making it up? Google it. Ronald Reagan said ketchup was a vegetable. Yeah, I did. I'm on. Hey, Shema, how you doing, my brother? I'm glad you had a nice solar return. I saw the video. Good job.
Oh, wow. But in terms of, what I want is to everyone to not only focus on the president, which is very important, but please vote in your local vote down ticket. Find out what look in the newspaper, look online. A lot of information is online. You just want to make sure it's credible. And even go into your city government. That's also a good place to find information of when to vote. I think vote is November 3rd, Tuesday. So for the president, and vote, and for everyone. So vote down the ticket. There's 35 Senate seats up in 2020. Arizona and Georgia are having a special election. There's 23 GOP members. The Dems need 3 or 4 to get the House back. So please, I mean, get the Senate back. So please vote. Get involved and find out, what your senator is standing for. Get engaged. I think it's important that we know what our representatives are, what they think about and how they vote. And what I really like the idea in the presidents, I like to think of myself more of as an independent voter because I voted Democrat and Republican depending on what they were saying. But lately,
my heart is Democratic, yay, free the people, but my wallet's Republican.
Yeah, well, you know what it is I like about the Republicans, that they do keep down the taxes. What I like about the Dems is that they are better for civil rights. They're not trying to block your vote, hopefully
Right.
not, they are trying to engage you in the, young man, do you have anything to say about your ideas about politics? What's your, you have
You have no
news?
opinion on politics?
Nope.
No? You don't care who's in office, right?
I don't even know if I'll be in this country much longer. So.
Where you going?
Canada.
Canada.
Oh, Canada.
Oh, then give us some place to go visit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We the North.
See my Canadian grandkids, that'd be all right.
Oh, Canada.
Oh.
But most of the young people seem to be supporting Bernie Sanders, which I think is fine. I do say read the paper. I know I'm old. I like to read the paper on Friday. But
There's a lot of information in the paper, though.
I remember a few weeks back, people were coming to our door to register to vote or to pass some kind of, I forgot what it was, Proposition 29 or something. And I just happened to have read in the paper that day that it was sponsored by Acorn. And I don't know if you remember, a few years back, Acorn was going to black voting sites and trying to trick the people or show that the people were falsely registering people. So when the lady came to the door and asked me what I signed for, she said, it's a good thing, you gotta sign for this. I said, this is sponsored by Acorn, the people that tried to keep the blacks from voting? And she just, her face was so sunken. I said, that's a hard no, go away. So you gotta be informed, because if I hadn't read that, I wouldn't have known that there was still Acorn trying another way to knock black people off of the voting rolls. And I don't care which way you vote, but it's your right to vote. So we're just praying that you will do just that.
Young and old,
Are we ready
please
to
go to vote.
wrap it up? Or you got more?
Yes, let's wrap it up. If we don't have anything to
She's so
young
cute, I'm
person-
gonna do whatever she says. So that's why
I'm going with your lead. I'm going with your lead. We really appreciate everyone that is logging on and looking at our Facebook page. All your input, we just love it. We thank you and we appreciate you. It's just a way for us to be engaged and even to reach to our New Jersey family, which we miss so badly. Oh my gosh, I miss you guys so much. I love you. And we just miss you. We think about New Jersey all the time. We're always looking at stuff from New Jersey, so it's really great.
Yes,
So
now for my shameless plug, this
Okay.
is my book, Abraham's Relationships for Today. Next time we're on in 2 weeks, we will be talking about jealousy. So you can get this on Amazon.com, and we'll be talking about jealousy. So have a blessed week and be great.
South Carolina's
And
vote.
vote.
Super Tuesday.
Yes.